Live from New York, it's Ask an Engineer.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Ask Engineer. It's me, your engineer, LadyAda, with me, Mr. LadyAda, on camera control, typing in answers, and getting questions to me, and putting the whole show together. He does a lot for us all. Thank you very much, Mr. LadyAda. We're broadcasting live from the Adafruit headquarters in downtown Manhattan, where we do all the kitting, testing, manufacturing, shipping, coding, and more. But right now, the factory is at rest because we have 1 hour of Ask Engineer. We're going to cover the latest and greatest news for the maker, hacker, engineer, artist community, and more. So why don't you tell them what's on tonight's show?
On tonight's show, the code is Probe Clip, 10% off in the Adafruit store all the way up to 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, or when I remember to take the code down. Remember, you get 10% off in the Adafruit store. Anything we have in stock, use it or lose it. Adafruit Live Series shows, we're going to be talking about the show and tell, which we just did. Maybe we'll play a little bit of a clip as well. Time travel, look around the world of makers, hackers, artists, engineers, and more. Chip shortage, everyone's favorite segment, sort of, this week. It's going to be Texas Instruments. We'll talk about what we can't get and what we need this week. From the Mailbag, a little bit different one this week. Speaking of shortages, this one has something to do with how to get the things you need and want from Adafruit. Help wanted, post from our jobs board. You can post your skills up on jobs.adafruit.com, or if you're a company and looking for cool folks to work at your organization, you can post on jobs.adafruit.com. We have some advanced manufacturing made right here in New York City from the Adafruit factory. We'll show some footage from our factory here. We got some 3D printing. We've got Ion MPI. This week we're featuring Maximum and Analog. They are now one, so those are two as one. Some new products. We've got some top secret. We're going to answer your questions. We do that over on Discord, adafruit.it/Discord. Join all 34,000 of us. We're going to answer your questions towards the end of the show. All that and more on, you guessed it, Ask an Engineer.
That's us.
Okay, so let's pay some bills. LadyAda,
Yes.
first bit is Probe Clip is the code for tonight. And when folks order stuff in the cart, they'll notice that there's things that get added to their cart for free.
For free.
What do they get?
Okay, $99 or more if you order from the Adafruit.com shop. You'll get a free Permaproto half-size breadboard. Great for making your projects permanent. People keep them, and then later on they're like, hey, I need that, and they have it ready to go. $149 or more, we've changed out our STEM QT boards. You now get a KB2040. It's a like a Pro Micro shaped board, so it's designed for keyboards, but hey, you can use it for actually anything. It has an RP2040 chip, which has CircuitPython, MicroPython, and Arduino support, USB-C, NeoPixel, STEM QT connector, buttons, and castellated pads. It's great for all sorts of projects. If you've got something with a Pro Micro, you can super boost it with this powerful chip. $199 or more, you get free UPS ground shipping in the continental United States.
All right, and just a reminder, if you want to buy a Raspberry Pi or probably almost anything soon, you should make sure you have a verified account. Just check your email after you get an account on adafruit.com and then do two-factor authentication. That's good security, and it's also a way that we can make sure you're not buying Raspberry Pis and buying a bunch of them and reselling them and put a big markup on them. That's not nice, and it doesn't work out for everyone. Every week we put in hundreds of Raspberry Pis, and we want to make sure hundreds of people get them. So this week I'm going to skip around a little bit and go right to Mailbag.
Oh.
Yeah, because Mailbag is, I can kind of say, hey, things are working out. This system in which we're getting Raspberry Pis to people is working. But the reality is, and I'll have Packet, the Mailbag entity, help me. The reality is, we live in an age where facts don't matter. So I'm just going to show.
Post-factual society?
Facts don't matter.
Okay.
So instead of just telling folks, yeah, we're able to get hundreds to people every single week, 100 of ones. You don't have to be a previous customer. You just can't be a repeat Raspberry Pi customer over and over. And so today we released, a few hundred. Mm-hmm. And then one of the folks who runs there's a bot alert. It's called RPI Locator on Twitter. Folks instantly will say, oh, wow, I got one. So this is the thing that I put in Mailbag this week. Thank you. Your alerts helped me secure one. Awesome. Thanks. I was finally able to pick up one. Your alert script works fantastic. Got one. I've been trying to get one for work for months. Thank you for your tool. Finally got one. Been trying for months. Finally got one. Thank you very much for the alerts. And then this person, not only did they get one, but we sent them their shipping notification, and they're going to get it tomorrow.
Yay.
So, anyways, I do know that there's going to be some folks that are disappointed that they got caught abusing the system, and now they can't order stuff. Maybe we'll remove that at some point, but we really can't allow folks to keep trying to get around and getting another Raspberry Pi when we catch you after we said don't do it. We're just going to ask you to go seek a different vendor for a while. I think that's reasonable. It's not personal. We just want to make sure that we get as many Raspberry Pis to as many different people every single week, and this is one of the ways. So appreciate the understanding, and for all the folks out there that are playing by the rules and getting Raspberry Pi, thank you, because that's what we're doing it for, doing it for you. Okay, so we do a live series of shows, LadyAda, including this one right here.
This is live.
Yeah, I mean, I've had to prove in the past that it was
But
live.
it is, it's live.
Like, type my name in the chat.
It's
Like,
live,
okay.
it's live.
So for some of the live shows we do, one show and tell, and we just did show and tell. And one of the things I wanted to do for this year is make our show and tell even more advanced, more interesting, more. But one of the problems is it's 7:30. It's also one of the good things about it, 7:30 Wednesday nights forever. And so, if you're a time traveler, you know where you could like beam in and find us. But if you're in a different time zone, or you're somewhere else and you're working, or if you have other obligations and you just can't get online for that period of time, what can you do if you want to show and share your project? So I did a separate video with art by physicist Kitty, and we played it, and it's from the same system that we use for the show and tell, which is we use a system or a website called StreamYard. And it worked really good. And there's a recording feature, and now the recording plays really well with it. We always try these new features, and so we did this. So I'm going to just play the first 30-ish seconds of it. It's on the show and tell, and we were able to seamlessly add that. So if you have a project and there's no way that you can show your project live, no problem. We could do stuff like this. We just need a little bit of time to coordinate and all that, and it worked out well. So here's the first 30 seconds or so of Kitty showing off the Bluetooth flowers. All right. Hello, Kitty. How are you?
Hello, PT. Good to see you.
Okay. You're a pretty well-known maker. We actually stock one of the things that you make in the store. It's Kitty's Flowers, pair of Bluetooth wearable brooches, art by physicists. Tell us a little bit about it and what you're up to.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. Yes, as PT just showed on the screen, these are the Bluetooth flowers. It comes as a pair. So they are actually connected through Bluetooth. That's why it's called the Bluetooth flowers. I'm just turning them on right now. You can zoom in onto the flowers. Yeah. So you can see on the front, there are some very beautiful LEDs that decorate the flower. And
you can watch the rest of that segment in the entire show and tell on any of our video properties, from YouTube to Twitch to Facebook to LinkedIn. Any of those you can watch Kitty go over all of this, and then all the other folks that were on the show and tell. They're all, our favorites. I did like Joey's custom LCD project this week. Okay, on Sundays, LadyAda, we do From the Desk of LadyAda, and it comes in two parts. The first part, what'd you show?
Okay, the first part I showed some stuff I was working on. I had some samples. I had some cool LEDs. I got some sonar transceivers. I'm working on Feather ESP32 S3s, all that good stuff. So new products and samples come by my desk for final approval, and I showed my process.
And we've been doing this great search thing for a while. Turns out it was a pretty good idea before the crisis of lack of parts. And so each week, LadyAda shows how to find things on digikey.com that you're going to need for sure, but might be a little hard to find unless you're a LadyAda that's been doing this for decades.
I know. Well, the part shortage is still going on, and, it's interesting. It's like some weeks it's like you can't get really basic parts. Some weeks you can't get really advanced parts. It's kind of all over the place. So this week, the part I was looking for is I have this regulator that I use for all of our breakouts and feathers, and I have some, but I don't have enough to last me till the next shipment, and so I need something to kind of help thin out my daily usage, because right now we're using about 1,000 a day of this part. And so finding a regulator that maybe is the same, pin out, same size, but maybe less current capable, that I can use for breakouts, so I can keep the really nice high current LDOs available for the feather boards that really need a 400, 500, 600 milliamp regulator. A lot of the sensor breakouts we have do not need that much. They're very happy with 50 to 100 milliamps. So if I can use those on the breakouts, I'll be able to keep the AP2112s when I really need them, and hopefully it'll help me kind of like, the saying this week is extend your runway, extending my runway with regulators.
All right. And then on Tuesdays, we do JP's Product Pick of the Week. That's where we do a live broadcast from inside the product page. Now, there's two things that are great about this, maybe three. So the first one is JP does it. The second one is it's in stock for sure because we're broadcasting from the product page. And the third one is you don't need to put a discount code in because it's already applied. So if you like you some JP, which we do, and you're worried about, well, am I going to ever be able to find the products or parts I need? Yeah, because if you're watching it, then it's in stock. And then, I'm so tired. It's been such a long day. I don't want to type a discount code. Don't worry, it's automatically applied. So
Insta.
Here's this week's highlight from JP's Product Pick of the Week.
A&O navigational scroll wheel, rotary encoder, and breakout board. Clicky, clicky. I have soldered an itsy bitsy RP2040 onto it. I can use the click wheel plugged into the iPhone, and now I can go and choose, let's say, cover flow. Scroll back from MF Doom to Bartle Beats there. That won't get us in trouble. I can click on that. So now I can click through, pick a song, hit play. And all I'm doing with this, let me go ahead and pause that, is using the controller as a USB HID device. Like, sure, yeah, that's convenient because it's already in your pocket, but this is actually fun. A&O rotary encoder scroll wheel with navigation buttons and breakout PCB, dual product picks of the week.
But wait, there's more. And then on Thursdays, we do JP's Workshop, and one of the segments we do is CircuitPython Parsec, and that's a nice little snippet of what you could do with CircuitPython. We do this every week, and if you're learning Python or you're interested in microcontrollers, this is a good little snapshot of something unique, cool, interesting that you can do with a microcontroller and Python, brought to you by JP.
For the CircuitPython Parsec today, I wanted to show how you could make a cool little randomized bicolor LED matrix using CircuitPython and just a little bit of code. So if you have a look here, I've got a Circuit Playground Bluefruit, and I have our little gizmo, little proto gizmo there, and I've attached this I2C backpack for a bicolor matrix. And it just gives us this kind of nice little sci-fi readout type of look. The computer is thinking. That's probably what's going on there. So if we look at the code here, what I'm doing is I'm importing some libraries including time, board, so I get pin definitions, random, and from random I'm getting the random integer, or randint, and then the library for this actual display, which is the HT16K33 backpack. I bring in the matrix 8x8x2, that's the bicolor, and then I set up that display on I2C as the matrix. I'm setting its brightness at 0.1, and then I'm defining a little list here of colors, and you'll see here I've got LED red, LED green, and LED off, which I've actually placed in there twice just to sort of adjust the odds that I won't have an LED lit. And here's what's going on in the main loop. We set a variable called x, which is a random integer from 0 to 7. So that's going to be one of the horizontal positions. We set a variable called y for a random integer 0 through 7. So that's going to be the vertical position. And then we're setting a color variable, which is based on grabbing one of those items in my list, either red, green, off, or the other off. Then we set the matrix. This is how we light up. We say matrix xy, so some position that was selected, equals whatever this color is. And then we sleep for a tiny little bit of time and repeat that. And so we get all these really nice blinky random types of lights going on in here. And so that is how you can set some random lights on the bicolor LED matrix inside of CircuitPython. And that is your CircuitPython Parsec. Beep, 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 beep.
Look like a pocket Dr. Theopolis. So on Fridays we do Deep Dive with Tim Foamy Guy, 2 p.m. Pacific Time, 5 p.m. Eastern, where you can literally take a deep dive into the innards of CircuitPython and learn all sorts of things, specifically how it works, and watch someone step by step go through all the code to make the thing that you probably want to make. It's time for time travel.
To go back in time. Go forward in time.
Yeah. So, you know, a lot of our lives now are just saying, here's stuff you can't get right away. So AdaBox, we're going to be shipping it. We have been moving the date for when things are available. We thought it might be winter. No, it's going to be spring. So we'll see how that goes. So thank you for your patience. Don't forget, we don't charge your credit card until we ship the AdaBox. So you don't have to worry about that, and we appreciate your patience. There's a chip shortage. And speaking of this week, we need stuff from Texas Instruments. So, LadyAda, what is the thing that we don't have that means we can't make electronics for all the kids out there who really want to build robots and more? What do we need?
We need some more of the DRV 8833s in the PWP package. Oh, I'm not too picky. I could always redesign my boards, but I prefer it just to get in this package. We have a bunch on order. I think we have like 8,000 on order. A couple thousand of them will help us. This is a dual H-bridge driver chip from TI. We really like it because it's high current. I think it's about 2 amps and up to 10 volts. So it's great for, you know, we use it on motor driver boards in the Cricut, and we like that package you see with the power pack on the bottom. We can use it with 2 DC motors, or you can use it with 1 stepper motor. How nice is that?
You want these chips?
We want these chips. This is what I want. I want them to rain down on me. I want to be like, oh my goodness.
Hallelujah! It's a rain and chips. So this is the chip. And what do we use it in, LadyAda?
We use we have a breakout board, but we use it a lot for that we can't get back in stock is our Cricut boards, which are all-in-one robotics development platform that you can plug in a Feather into, or you can plug in a Playground Express. We have one for the microbit, we have one for Feather, and we have one for Circuit Playground boards, the classic Express or Bluetooth, and it's one of those things where it's like we have every other part to make this board except for the DRV 8833.
Yeah. And you're wondering, like, okay, what type of projects could you do with a Cricut that are now not possible because of this part? And I have a little video that I did from a long time ago.
It's so wholesome.
And this is a Cricut project that we did here together one night. So I'm going to just play this video. Ti, think of all the things that we could do.
I think of how wonderful it would be
if we could get this chip. So here it is.
Time goes by so slowly, and time can do so much for you. Still more, I need your love.
All right, so how many of these do we need so we could do more projects like that?
Look, I need like a reel of like 1,000, couple thousand would be really great. We would use them only for good. No kittens would be crushed. Only true love. Love that transcends the human body and the physical instantiation of
That's right.
our spirits.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I'm going to send this video to
Do you believe in love?
Yeah.
Then send us some DRV
I'm
8833
going to send this video to
PWBs.
Texas Instruments, and either we're going to get chips or they're going to say never contact us again. So that's this week's chip shortage. All right, help wanted. So we have jobs.adafruit.com, and like I said before, you can post your skills up if you're looking to do some cool projects. But one of the things that we're seeing, and this is a good example this week, is there's folks who they have Adafruit electronics and hardware, and they're a company or they're doing a project, and they're just like, oh, we'll use a jobs board. So this person, Bob Property LLC in Tampa, Florida, contract job is looking for a Matrix portal product utilizing Wi-Fi. So if that's you. You
Here's the
thinking
good
how to do
news.
this.
We got the Matrix Portal library, the hardware, it's all working. You just have to get some CircuitPython code together.
No. Speaking of, it's Python on hardware time. Okay, so this week the newsletter is gigantic. So Hug Report, that's what we do here at Adafruit, to Ann and all the contributors to the newsletter. It's a monster newsletter. So we go over our 300 boards on CircuitPython.org/downloads. I'll talk about a couple other things. Last week we mentioned we were able to help MicroPython hit their first tiered goal that they wanted to get to.
Yes.
Which is
And 4% more, so that they're getting
yeah.
towards their second goal.
Yeah, I think altogether it boosted it up over 10%, and I think 30 people. We'll talk about CircuitPython 7.3.0 in a little bit, and the RP2040 stuff with USB Teeny. We're now a topic on GitHub. You could check that out. This is a way for folks to tag things with CircuitPython throughout the site on GitHub and more. There's new Python implementations for this neat Pico Zero Python thing. Check that out. And all the regular kind of unending projects, news, videos. The project of the week, I thought this was kind of cool. This was multiple displays. I think Toddbot did this. And you can show 2 displays using
Good
CircuitPython.
Johnny 5 action there.
Which is,
yeah.
Johnny 5 is alive. And then we have a really neat portable CircuitPython dev.
Oh.
Yeah, these are the tiniest ways to program with CircuitPython
They're
on the
so
go.
tiny.
So what I thought we'd do is go to some of the highlights this week. So first up, if you haven't already, I put this in the press section on Adafruit.com. So Adafruit.com/press. You can check out Tom's Hardware, where Ann did a cool video, the PyCast, over on Tom's Hardware. And then we're up to the final version of CircuitPython 7.
Release before 8.
Yeah. So what's the latest and greatest, LadyAda?
Well, a lot of it's just been bug fixes. If we're still finding people who are like, hey, there's a regression, please fix it, and we're fixing them. 7.3 added a bunch of stuff, floppy support, PIO support, merged Python 1.18. A lot of boards, a lot of ESP boards were added. A lot of graphics stuff was added. We added F strings to all builds that came in recently. Also Dan spent a bunch of time on improving NeoPixel timing. So NeoPixel should work much better no matter what weirdo NeoPixel compatible chips you're using. And 7.3.0, we're probably going to do 7.3.1, but we're probably not going to do another mid-level release until 8 because I think Python 1.19, which just got released, made an update to the format for MPY files, which we may merge in which case we would bump up to a major version. So that would be 8. We're going to be doing more work on Wi-Fi workflow. Maybe ESP32S3 is going to get more development. We got a lot of plans for 8, so we're thinking about what the art's going to be. We'll release it so we know the theme of 8.
Yeah. And someone said the newsletter might not be mobile responsive. So I'm going to ask the team. It should be, but if not, maybe there's some tweaks that we can do so it's easier to read on a phone. Thanks for letting us know about that. And then next up, this was in the newsletter, but I thought this would be good for LadyAda to talk about. So the RP2040 can have additional USB ports for free. Here's a little video, but what does this mean for folks who aren't familiar with this?
Well, this is, I think, TAC doing a demo. TAC's been working really hard on integrating this cool project from a group of Japanese makers, I think, to add USB host support using PIO to manage the differential, the D plus D minus lines. And we've been, USB host support's been kind of coming into Teeny USB. But one of the things that was difficult for me to get USB host going is I didn't like it when USB host was only on the same as the USB client, because usually that's how you upload code or debug it. So it's like if you only have one USB port, it can be client or host. That makes it tough to do host projects. So what's really nice about this Teeny USB version for RP2040 is that you can use any 2 pins. Which means that you can still run, say, CircuitPython or Arduino. You can have the output, you can upload code, and then you have 2 separate pins that are used for USB host.
Okay.
So that's a demo showing, HID demo, and you can see the output on the REPL.
And all of these news stories and more can be delivered every single week to you. Check out adafruitdaily.com. It's a completely separate site that we have, because we don't want to tie to your store account, because we don't want you to ever get an email and think that you didn't sign up for something or whatever. So it's a completely separate site. And that is our Python on hardware news for this week.
That's our Python promise.
Yeah. All right. Let's do some open source hardware news and then get on to the guides. So last week we talked about MicroPython. MicroPython is open source. And the hardware that MicroPython makes is open source hardware. Same thing with CircuitPython. And unlike MicroPython, Adafruit's selling a bunch of hardware. MicroPython right now, they can't get chips. And so they said, hey, we're doing some fundraising. We have the GitHub sponsor program. Adafruit contributes to them directly. And we also buy their hardware when they have it. We also donate it to MicroPython. So we try to make sure that not only do we show that we do open source, but support other open source projects, especially ones that we use. So every year we do donations. We certainly don't have buckets of money, but we try to do the best we can. And at the minimum, if we don't have as much money as we'd like to donate for something, we can at least sometimes donate some time and get the word out on things and have other people help out with sponsorships, or have people think about what open source software that they use. And I think one of the things that's really tough for maintainers and people who work in open source is it's not necessarily the money, because you're not doing it for the money, because if you were, it would be really hard to get for the amount of time you put in, what would make the most sense. So you're doing it for another reason. And if you can't send a signal, even if it's like, let's say you open up an open source app once a month or every single day, if you were able to do like $10 a month and just write them a note, that impact might go further than you think. So as we've been developing Whippersnapper for Adafruit.io, one of our developers, Brent, said, I use Platform.io a lot, and they've been on our list to make sure we let them know thank you for doing this thing, not only for us, but for a lot of other people. But let's make sure we donate as well. So we donated to the Platform.io project. Here is a little receipt we got, and here is the note we received, the note we sent them. And the note we sent them was, we became interested in looking at Platform.io since they recently announced mainline support for the Espressive Arduino ESP32 board support package. Please keep this up. Since then, we've been using it to build Adafruit.io Whippersnapper, a very large Arduino application with loads of dependency. Platform.io is super fast, and we like supporting open source software. Thank you, Ivan, Valerie, and Max. Adafruit. And so that's what all of us can do. If you use Platform.io, they have a recurring thing, they have a one thing, and you can put in a note. please consider doing it, because I feel like that's the signal we can send to any open source maintainer that it's worth doing this. It's worth pouring all of yourself into it, because a lot of times you only hear the negatives, you only see the GitHub issues, you only see the mean tweet, or at least you only remember those. And so that can go really far for a lot of people. So see what you can do, and we'll always try to lead by example. So that's what we did. That's why we wanted to put this in the open source section this week. But speaking of, we have 2,679 guides, LadyAda. What's on the big board this week?
Okay, guides this week, starting from the right. Liz and Kattni both teamed up to write a guide on how to install drivers for the WCH USB serial chips. Some of our boards will be changing from sneezing from the CP2102 or CP2104. It is like a high pollen. Even I got an alert on my phone that said high pollen
Yeah,
alert.
I was just like, someone said, are you okay? I'm just like, yeah, I'm a little tired, and I also think just the trees are exploding with pollen right now.
And also New York is just constantly under construction.
Yeah, it's
and we have
happening.
the windows open to get some air in. So, for Mac and Windows, just instructions on how to install that driver, because you do need to download an exe and run it to get the driver installed. Linux has it by default. It's a short guide, but I think we'll refer people to it a bunch because it's a new chip that people aren't used to. Noe and Pedro did the Lego phone holder that they designed for using with Camo, which is this app that turns your phone into a webcam that Mr. LadyAda found, which is super handy, especially if you have an old iPhone hanging around. Use it, turn it into a webcam, and then it's a really good quality camera with autofocus and of course, high resolution, great color. And skin looks really good on it. Traffic light conference badge. Liz wanted to do a fun project with our cute model traffic light, and so she made a little conference badge and she made it look like a little diorama. This is a fun art project. And JP did video nub chank, which is, I don't know, I guess it's a very descriptive name. You're never going to forget it. Basically running the ESP32 Pico and turning it into a little USB video dongle using some example code written by a bunch of people, including Ross Amar, who's a friend of the Fruit, and Mitosi, I think. I don't remember the exact name, who wrote this very cool vaporwave clock. We also have a demo for making an NTSC test image generator, which I need because I'm constantly testing displays with NTSC in. And it's this little dongle I can just plug in and quickly generate an NTSC test signal.
Okay, and then we have a 1-minute video from Liz for this cool traffic light wearable project.
You can direct oncoming human traffic with this traffic light conference badge. The traffic light can symbolize your socializing preferences in the moment when you're out and about at a conference or a convention. Red for no contact, yellow for minimal contact, and green for wanting to chat with anyone. You can change the color with a button on the side of the enclosure. The enclosure is 3D printed with raised details for you to paint and deck out like a tiny diorama to match a traffic light. There's an opening for a stemma cable to plug into the CircuitPy ESP32S2. You can use it for your favorite sensors, your SAO format badge add-ons, or a small breadboard area. Learn how you can build your own by checking out the Learn guide at learn.adafruit.com.
It's time for some advanced manufacturing made right here in New York City.
Pollenfeld, New York City.
And it wouldn't be made in New York City for us right now unless it was, that's right, the Disney building. Across the street, every day. That's our new view. All right, 3D printing. So for this week on 3D printing, we have
Okay.
2 videos. We've got the web camera project, and then also a cute speed up with a little VGA looking thing.
That's right.
Hey, what's up folks? In this project, we're using our mobile phone as a webcam. We designed and 3D printed tripod adapters that feature LEGO compatible studs for adding minifigs. The built-in tripod screw lets you hold up your phone so you can use it as a high-quality webcam. It sits over our laptop screen and doesn't obstruct the built-in webcam or any of the nearby sensors. With the Re-Incubate Camo Studio desktop app, you can set up your mobile phone as a webcam. You can adjust camera settings to get the best image for your streaming setup. We think it's a great way to improve the quality of your streams and your video calls. The 3D printed bits to build your own camera tripod can be printed in your favorite filament. A tripod screw adapter offers a rigid setup that can hold up the weight of even the largest mobile phones. Built-in threads allow for easy installation using a flathead screwdriver. You can use a 1/4-20 to 1/4-20 tripod screw to add a pan swivel ball head so you can add your favorite phone holder right on top. Be sure to check out the guide to get all the parts to build this project. The mounting base features LEGO compatible studs, so it just snaps on top of the webcam holder. It features extra studs for adorning your favorite bricks and minifigs. Just sit it over your laptop screen bezel in the center right above the built-in webcam. Then all that's left to do is to personalize it with some minifigs. We hope this inspires you to check out the Camo Studio app and try using your phone as a high-quality webcam that you've always wanted. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more projects from Adafruit.
All right, and don't forget, you can learn how to make all this stuff and more on 3D Hangouts every single Wednesday at 11 a.m. Okay, Lady Ada, let's do some Eye on MPI. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Eye on MPI.
This week's Eye on MPI is Maxim Analog Devices. Lady Ada, what is your new product introduction brought to you by DigiKey this week?
All right, this week's MPI is the Max 31329, a low current real-time clock chip. As shown here, it's a 10-pin TDFN chip, so it's pretty easy to use in your surface mount project. It's a 5x5 millimeter chip, and it's got a lot of cool things going on in it. I'm always looking at real-time clocks, and so there's a bunch of stuff in this NPI that caught my eye. This is the chip, so it was originally, I think, designed at Maxim, and then Maxim was recently acquired by ADI, and so that's why it's got Max in the part number, ADI on the data sheet. So this is a real-time clock. A lot of people use these. You've got a product where power may be lost, but you still want to be able to keep time and do so in a very low power way. Initially, this is what real-time clocks used to look like. They'd have a battery built in, they have the chip built in, and they have a crystal as well. And this was used on, like, say, a computer or a motherboard, so that even when power was lost, the computer would keep time, which is great. This is actually what I didn't like about VCRs as a kid is you lose power and it loses time as well. You should have had a real-time clock inside of them. I think nowadays DVD players, they'd add a real-time clock. It's a little bit more expensive, but basically lets the product keep time, again, when battery's low or power's out. So like if you have a device that's off for a very, very long time, and the internal real-time clock battery also dies, that's when it's like, hey, I think it's like 1970 and it's noon. So this is like, a real-time clock the way, we carry them and have a breakout for it. This is the DS1307. It's a classic real-time clock. So the chip itself is in the middle. That's the DS1307. And then the rectangular thing is the crystal. There's a 32 kilohertz crystal that's used to keep time. And then a battery. The real-time clocks tend to use less than a microamp, which means that they can really sip a battery. Even a small coin cell can last years or even a decade. No matter what happens, no matter how long the product is depowered, it'll always know what time it is when it wakes up. So that's the old style RTC. So this is the Maxim 31329. So one thing that I thought was very cool about it is, first off, it's got the crystal built in. So you see the oscillator inside with a little X1, X2 kind of in the top middle. There's a couple implications for it, but one is you don't have to pay for a separate crystal, which is usually 20 to 50 cents. And second, you can get more accuracy, which we'll talk about because it can be tuned with the loading capacitors. Usually the loading capacitors are specified for the crystal, but you don't really know what it's going to be until, there's always a little bit of variation, but with this, it's internal. But it's very similar to a lot of RTCs. It runs off of I2C. There's an optional clock input. You can see DIN, which is quite nice. There's 2 interrupt outputs, into A, into B, clock out, clock in. Data in is not the clock in. Data in is for interrupt support into the device to wake it up. And then VBAT is the secondary power. So some RTCs don't have a secondary power supply. There's the main supply, VCC, which is usually, power or wall or, 3.3 volts from the main system. And then VBAT is the secondary lower power supply for when power is cut out. Again, some RTCs don't have 2 power pins, and they make you have to manage that on your own. I like that in this case, it can auto-detect and switch over to the battery when main power is lost. So that's the first basic thing. Second off, it's again pretty small. It's not a big SOIC or a TSOP. It's a nice TDFN chip. All the pins are used. It's very convenient, especially since the crystal's built in. Only 5 by 5 millimeters. So 2 of the things that really I think feature quite well on this RTC. One is the battery management and the battery life. So this is a low power RTC. It uses 240 nanoamperes. And that is about half of what most RTCs use. I think the DS1307 I looked up and it's about 500 nanoamperes. So great, it'll last twice as long in a battery. There's also a trickle charger that can charge an external supercap, or if you have a rechargeable battery. I thought the supercap, especially since it uses half as much current, a supercapacitor, which looks like this, it looks like a coin cell, but it's actually like a 0.07 or 0.2 farad capacitor. It's basically like a battery, right? But you can charge it very easily and discharge it. And by using the Maxim SuperCap calculator, you can see that even, I think in this case, a 2 millifarad SuperCap running at the 240 nanoamperes typical current will last you, I think it says like 60 or so hours. So, you can, or a couple days worth. So if you think that your power is not going to be out for more than a couple hours at a time, then you can use a supercap. It means you don't have to deal with the lithium battery, which is always like shipping management gets more complicated because you have to label it as containing a lithium battery. You can't recharge a lithium battery. And the supercap, of course, it'll automatically recharge instantly the moment the main power gets turned back on. So I thought that was nice, especially with the lower quiescent current, timekeeping current, it makes more sense. There's also, the built-in trickle charging circuit. You can see here how it's hooked up. You can select which resistor to trickle charge through. And they even put in the Schottky diode. How handy is that? So it's very, very inclusive. Really, if all you need is the super cap on the VBAT pin and you're ready to go. The second nice thing about this is, we won't show it, but this is the DS3231. And this is the extremely accurate temperature compensated crystal real-time clock that we carry. And this is kind of the highest end, most precise real-time clock you can get, plus or minus 2 ppm for room temperature-ish. And this is what it looks like. It's really big. It's a big RTC, so definitely not like you could put it in a wearable or anything. It's a chonker. I think it's 16 SOIC, and it's got the crystal and then a temperature sensor to do a temperature compensation. Whereas what's nice about what's nice about this. The Max 3139, sorry, I want to get the right part number, and there's a lot of threes. Max 31329 is that if you see at the bottom below, benefits and features at the bottom, integrated crystal load capacitors tuned to plus or minus 5 ppm. So compared to the DS3231, it's not going to be 2.5 or 3, it's going to be 5 ppm. So not as precise. But given the fact that it isn't temperature compensated and the price is significantly better, like you have to pay quite a bit to get the temperature compensated RTCs, the internal crystal and the load capacitors that are tuned and trimmed at the factory mean that you're going to have much better clock accuracy than your typical RTC where you have an external crystal. Usually the crystals are, plus minus 20 ppm. So you'll get 4 times better accuracy. And also you don't have to purchase that component separately. So you can also pick up an eval board. It looks like an Arduino Shield compatible. That also comes with a dev board, a Maxim microcontroller dev board if you'd like. But you can remove that and just plug it in. Again, it's I2C, so use wire or use whatever. A lot of dev boards have Arduino pinouts on them. You just use I2C, follow the register map, and you can set the alarm, set the times, all the good stuff that you expect from an RTC, and also take advantage of the extremely small size, full integration, high accuracy, and low power.
Available DigiKey, and it's in stock.
It's actually not in
It's
stock,
not in
but it
stock.
will be in stock.
I'll edit that in post.
Sorry, this was so good I didn't want to pass it up. It's going to be in stock in a couple weeks. The eval board is in stock. But
This really is new NPI.
I know.
This is so new you can't get it yet.
This is the thing.
But it's not like the other things that you can't get. This is coming.
This is
soon.
actually going to come in. It's going to be in stock in I think 2 or 3 weeks. So I actually have some on order that I'm going to get.
Eye on the horizon.
Look, it's a chip shortage time,
Yeah.
but I still want to celebrate these good chips. I think this one's worth waiting for.
Okay, and that's NPI soon.
Eye on NPI.
Okay, don't forget Perp Clip. That's the code. Get some free stuff. Just make sure while you're doing this, make an account and two-factor authenticate it, because soon there'll probably be more things that you need an account to order stuff, because
It's
there's not a lot
chip
of
shortage.
stuff. Let's go to new products,
Yeah.
LadyAda.
New.
Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, first up.
Okay, we've got a couple accessories this week. This is a WFL/IPX3/MHF3 to RP-SMA adapter. We have our handy ESP32 Feather with a WFL connector, not UFL, WFL, it's smaller. And this little adapter has an RP-SMA connector at the end, because that's what's used for almost all Wi-Fi adapters, Wi-Fi antennas. Check your antenna, make sure it's got the right polarity. Usually it's this way, and then this is the other side. It looks like UFL, but it's not UFL, it's WFL. So let me show.
WFL, that's my favorite radio station.
I know. Let's look at this on the overhead. Hold on, let me just focus lock. Okay. So this is the board, and there's no onboard antenna. Instead, there's this little connector, but you want to maybe have it in a box and have an external, standard 2 to 5 dBi antenna. This will do the job, and then this is panel mountable. So this is great for adding a very good antenna, any kind of size antenna you want, to the Feather ESP32. You want something Wi-Fi and you want it to go a couple miles, just get a really big antenna. You're good to go.
All right, next up.
Next up, we've got the Alps EC11J SMD potentiometer. Sorry, rotary encoder. Look at it. It looks like a potentiometer, but it's not. It's a rotary encoder. It's all SMT. It's got 30
cool.
detents per rotation. It is detenty. Got a D shaft on there. And it's also got the button press, so it's kind of like an all-in-one rotary encoder. It's about the price of a rotary encoder, but what's nice is it's fully surface mount. Now, it's not going to be as mechanically strong as a through-hole rotary encoder, and especially if you're doing a ton of twisting. But that said, there are some situations where you really need to use a surface mount process for this, or you have something on the other side and you can't have through-hole pads going through. This does have really big pads on the bottom. You can see, there's basically 1, 2, 3, 4 corner pads and then 2 side pads that are really chunky. Put a ton of paste down there and connect it to a big ground plane. And there's also a locating dot as well to help keep it in place. You'll be able to have a surface mount rotary encoder. I thought this would be a fun, probably useful for somebody type product.
And stars of the show-ish, because that was a code tonight, was probe clip, are these.
These are some probe clips. I thought these would be handy for, you're programming a board. You don't. I'm always like holding, like I'm holding like these extra long headers on or wires on, and it's kind of tough. But you don't want to solder to it for some reason. So these probe clips, there's 2 kinds. So start at the beginning, and we'll just talk about this one. So this is a 6-pin long, 0.1-inch spacing. So this is kind of what you're going to probably use for a lot of microcontroller boards or dev boards where they just put the programming pins in a row. The depth of the board can be 1 inch or so from the pogo pins, and then they come up to the top into the these pogo pin sockets that you can then just plug in. You can plug in any socket header into. So I just showed this with like a breakout board. You have a breakout. You're like, I don't want to solder to this. You clip on. It gives you a really good grip. And then you just plug wires, or you can solder wires onto this, and when you're done, you're done. And if you design your board with this in mind, you put the headers on the edge, or 1 inch away from the edge. You can just clip on, program. You may not even need to have a jig for programming. You can just use this instead. The second version, let's go to that. The second version is a 0.05-inch spacing 2x5. So this is like what I call SWD pinout spacing or JTAG spacing. So this is finer pitch, but a lot of boards already have this pinout on them, so you may be able to take advantage of it. And also, some people like to leave the pads in so folks can solder in a through-hole SWD connector. It also gives you about 1 inch from the edge of the PCB. And then instead of, obviously you can't just plug in, the pins do come up, but you can't really easily plug to them. So what it does instead is it has a separate 2x5 0.1-inch header spacing that you can plug wires into to connect to your JTAG programmer. So this is an example. Like here I've got these pads. This isn't ideal. You should probably use through-hole pads, not surface mount pads. But you can actually get it to line up and touch the 2x5 and, oops, hold on. I'll get it to line up. There you go. Get it to line up without soldering on, and then connect wires to these headers. If you want to, say, program this STM32F405 over SWD, and then, you just use a right angle USB cable. I mean, of course, I designed this board before I had the clip. If I was doing it again, I would do it from, the right-hand side. So I just clip in like that. But, still, this will work fine for many boards. You can see about 1 inch of depth. Feather is about 0.9 inches. So that's how far you can go into the depth of the PCB and still clip on.
Okay, and
Clippy,
that
clippy.
is new products. All right, so don't forget the code is ProbeClip. We're going to do some top secret. You were going to show something?
Yeah, I'm still.
So let
This
me
is like a
do-
handmade prototype.
We have some questions lined up that we'll do right after this.
Yeah, top secret.
Yeah,
Forgot we had a graphic.
that's okay. All right, what is so top secret that the world has not seen yet?
No, hasn't seen it. This is my ESP32 S3 TFT feather. So we had this board for the S2, but luckily we used the mini module, which is pin compatible with the S3. So I just hot aired the S2 off, hot aired the S3 on, and got it working. This is Arduino. And then, yeah, we just got the bootloader going, so you can have a nice graphical bootloader. And then also CircuitPython support. So you get all the joy of having, this really nice dual core S3. It says S2, but it's really S3 with 4 megabytes of flash, 2 megabytes of PS RAM, with a display, QD, Stomach QT connector, battery, USB, all ready to rock.
All right,
Hi.
and that's top secret.
It's top secret.
Okay. We lined up some questions. Thanks, folks, for posting them up over on adafruit.it/discord. I'm going to be getting through those. If there's new ones, you can post them there. Let's do some questions, and then we're going to get out of here and go to bed,
Yes.
and then rinse and repeat. Okay, first up, can you please suggest a cheap, simple audio indicator? For example, an LED between each guitar pedal via quarter-inch mono cables to help troubleshoot where the guitar signal has been interrupted. Thanks.
Yes, it's tough because you don't actually want to put anything in the line of the audio. I'm actually kind of surprised they don't have cables that can light up a little bit when audio goes through them, but it's tough because there's usually no power. So the answer is I don't have a very good answer for you. It is quite challenging. USB cables, they have power, so you can light them up because you have a power supply, whereas audio cables you don't, and you don't want to load the audio. And also usually line level audio can't be loaded anyways. So yeah, I think you might want to get something in line. There might be some plug, some powerable plug in the middle that you can put audio into, and it has a little battery pack, and it can tell you that it's getting audio signal. That's the only thing I can recommend. I don't know of one. It's just if I was going to invent something, that's what I would invent.
Okay, next up, is there an approximate time for an RPI 8 gigabyte? So good news, bad news. We will put some in stock. The emails, by the time all the emails go out, they'll be sold out when we put things in stock. So you might want to look at the RPI locator Twitter account. Usually we put things in stock on Wednesdays and Fridays, but there is a shortage, so it's going to be a little tough.
Yeah.
So no specific ETA, unfortunately. Speaking of Python hardware, could someone recommend a 16x2 LCD that is easy to use in CircuitPython?
A standard 16x2 LCD will work fine. We also have our I2C/SPI backpack, and that works great in CircuitPython as well.
Okay. Next up, enjoy the Tuesday Python hardware email. Any chance to make it text responsive mobile? Yeah, so thank you for the suggestion. I'm going to chat with the team and figure out, it should do that. And if it doesn't, it's probably something that we can fix. And if it doesn't, then that is a good feature that we will eventually get to. Next up, I'd love to know how to get time once Wi-Fi or NTC, then hand off to RTC. We have a we have a CircuitPython.
I think I think we don't have an example for that specifically, but basically you just take two things. You connect to Wi-Fi, you get the time, and then you take the demo where you write the time to the real-time clock and then read it back. So you just have to take the two examples and just piece them together and decide how often you want to synchronize them.
Okay. Question: is there an I2S isolator like the ISO 1540 bidirectional I2C isolator ID 49003?
No, and I don't think you need one. I don't think I2S needs isolation because it's a digital audio supply. I think you could have the amplifier powered separately, because usually there's a digital and analog supply, and you just keep those separate. So I don't know of one. I've only heard of the I2C is quite a bit of a weird one, and And I've seen the USB, but I've not seen I2S.
Okay. How far can timed out monotonic take you when you should run an RTC?
RTCs are really, they're for long-term power outage timekeeping, like clocks or things that are like, remind me tomorrow or wake me up, every other Monday or something and do something. Long-term timekeeping is when you want a real-time clock. Real-time clocks aren't going to be good for timing events between button presses. That's going to take too long. That you use the internal counter on a microcontroller. It's when you want to know when it's Tuesday, 8 in the morning. That's what an RTC is good for.
Okay. Next up, on Adafruit Daily, there was a tip that mentioned sorting resistors by third color band. Clarify what you mean, please, since you can 4 or 5 band resistors.
I think what they're saying is that you sort by the multiplier. So, if you have to sort every resistor forever and ever, you'd have 100 bins. So instead you sort all the, black band resistors, which are like, 1 ohm to 9 ohm in one bin, all the 10 to 99 ohm, all the 100 to, 990 ohm. You do it by decades, and so that's the multiplier band.
Okay. Can the QT Py ESP32S2 do ESP now mode?
I think all the newer ESPs can, but only in Arduino, and you'll have to check out the Espressif Arduino board support package for example code. I've never used it myself.
Okay. Someone had a neat tip. They said they found out about the ESP32S2 QT Py microcontrollers because of the Pi shortage. Many uses can be handled by a microcontroller, but they didn't know that before trying to use a Wi-Fi enabled microcontroller.
It's tough when everyone had this gigantic hammer, and now it's like, hey, what if you can't get that hammer? But yes, ESPs can do quite a bit. You'd be surprised. A lot of projects getting data from the internet, displaying it, doing something.
Constraints are good.
Constraints are good.
Question: what parts would I have to buy from Adafruit to create a 3D microphone array?
We don't really do microphone arrays. We do have PDM mics and I2S mics, but a lot of the hard work is in getting that data synchronized as into an input, which I don't have an answer for you. That's not easy.
How do you test your firmware at Adafruit? That's a big
I
question.
just write a lot of it, and I just kind of know what tends to go wrong.
Yeah, I would say how we test some of the things we do is, so we have so many boards. So like CircuitPython is kind of a way of testing a board in some way, because when we do a build, it runs on all the different boards.
So we use continuous integration a lot, but also we just wait for bug reports. We just try to hammer on it and do projects, and the projects usually tell us when there's a bug in it.
Also, I'll say this about our philosophy and approach with CircuitPython is there's 300 boards, and over half are non-Adafruit, and a lot of people run their entire businesses off using open source software like CircuitPython. So every time there's an update to CircuitPython, their board gets it for free.
Yeah.
And it should just work, and it so far has. And if it didn't, we would hear about it. So we're theoretically testing live when people download the new versions of CircuitPython across all these boards that we've never even used.
It's never done.
And so that's kind of neat, because we're always getting feedback and we're always putting out new versions.
Always learning.
Okay, last question. Do you have a suggestion for RP 2040, I think they meant 2040. Yeah, RP 2040 flash memory is a module with slightly lower clock good?
I would check the RP 2040 datasheet, because they do have some recommended flash chips that are used. I know that not every single chip is supported, because they do the execute in place. They have some recommended chips, and I would just use what they recommend.
All right, and that's questions for tonight. Thank you, everybody. We got through all of them.
Yay! Thanks, everybody.
And another person mentioned libraries also include test code. And
yes, we do have example code.
Okay, that's our show for tonight. Don't forget the code is ProbeClip. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, our community, our customers, our Adafruit staff, everyone who makes this go. We very much appreciate it. We'll see everybody next week. Please continue to be good to yourself, be good to others, help someone out there. It makes you feel good. And this has been an Adafruit production. We'll see everybody next week. And this is your moment of Zener.
Thanks, everyone.